Hey there, welcome to episode 60 of your favorite marketing podcast, Dodgeball Marketing Podcast. Michael, how you doing?
Good, doing great. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Michael, I don't know if you heard the news, but SEO is dead. I sasaw it.
Yeah, yet again, it is not dead.
I saw a clickbait headline that said SEO is dead, so it must be really dead this time. So I love the blank is dead. If you want to get clicks, all you got to do is write an article that blank is dead. Email is also dead.
We're not going to take time to pull it up on the screen, but the billions invested in SEO just goes up every year, and it always has, and it always will.
Obviously, SEO is not dead. SEO will probably never die, and we're here to give you 5 reasons why SEO won't die. It's like email. Email's like the cockroach of online marketing. The death has been predicted so many times, and it just keeps on like a cockroach in nuclear war. But we're going to give you 5 reasons why SEO won't die, very likely in the near future, and probably won't ever die. Michael, why don't you take the first one here? 5 reasons.
Yeah, SEO rests between 2 competing forces that balance each other out. There's a balance between access to information and search engine priorities. This is kind of a weird idea that I want to get out there, but I've been reading Alan Greenspan's History of Capitalism. And what Alan Greenspan argues in this book is that the reason capitalism is safe in America is because anytime regulation creeps up, suddenly you have this wave of response of deregulation. And so there's essentially a perfect balance in his book. He's not saying perfect balance like we've got it all figured out, but there's a perfect mechanism at play that balances out, that keeps some regulation happening, but keeps it in check from overwhelming the economic engines of our various industries that make up our GDP. Yeah. So this, kind of thinking about it metaphorically, this is how search engines work. Think about a search engine that just has the places that they've decided are either the ones that are kind of the good guys, or the ones that are their favorite ones, like maybe just the ones who advertise. Well, suddenly, if you're trying to find a phone number for a place down the street that you know is the new cool restaurant that you're trying to go to and you want to make reservations, or you're trying to find the link to get a table reserved, and if it's not on their platform because they're not an advertiser or they said the wrong thing, guess what? You're going to some other search engine. Yeah. So inevitably, it's going to be a balance between access to information that's out there that reflects what's happening in the world and the search engine's priorities. A lot of people, when we got into doing SEO, we've been in business for 10 years. And a lot of people early on thought, hey, do we have to advertise also to do better in search engine rankings? Yeah. And we were able with a clear conscience to say no, because we always sensed that we could work in Google with SEO, because it was sort of a walled off garden of, no, these are the organic results. And there have been some studies that would say, yeah, if somebody sees an ad and then they see the organic results, that's 2 impressions. And that organic result's going to perform better. That's a little bit of a different issue. What people are asking about is, does Google game the system to benefit just their advertisers? And the answer is, I don't know. But if an internet ever happened where we just had a ratcheting up, and organic became a protected walled system, they would be really vulnerable to competition, because anything anybody's searching for and they can't find it, it's just going to poke a hole in that balloon. So SEO is never going to die. SEO is a balance between businesses that have their own priorities and are creating search engines, and the need and the demand for all of the information. Google wants to organize the world's information. Guess what? They're just trying to keep up. Yeah. In reality, the market wants to organize the world's information. And it starts that by having access to the world's information. Yeah. And that means all the information. You can't have the one bakery down the street excluded and be the search engine.
Yeah. And that demand will always be filled. Even in places like China, where they block off huge portions of the internet, people are still accessing that. They're doing VPNs and Tor browsers and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So even like very powerful government entities that try to kind of manipulate that, the demand still is met.
Yeah. And it's the Jurassic Park principle. Life finds a way. So we might call that the Goldblum rule. But yeah, with search engines, it means that search is always going to lend itself toward less regulated, less controlled factors, and those are the buttons we're there to push.
Yeah.
It's content publishing, inbound links, everything we do to do SEO.
Yeah.
Why don't you take the next one?
Number 2 reason why SEO won't die is the things that make it make SEO work. The organizing principles of how search engines rank sites those things that are here now will continue to be here. Here's the 3 things.
Yeah.
SEO is web architecture, offsite factors, and the actual content on your site.
Yeah.
Website architecture will always be here. So that's how your site is organized. Google looks at how your site's organized, how it interlinks together,
how well it works, page speed.
And those will continue to be a factor. In 10 years, websites will continue to have architecture. Certain things will take preeminence over other things. There will be ways in which they work that are either user-friendly or not user-friendly, right? That'll change. What is user-friendly or not will evolve and change, but it'll still be a factor. Offsite factors. Google wants to know how reputable a site is, how many other sites are linking back to that site. That's why backlinks are so important. That will continue to be a factor. They will continue to look at sites and say, "What I know what we think about this site, but what do other people think of this site?" Right? Is it getting lots of links from other sources that we know to be reputable? If so, then we're going to raise. That will always be the case. The internet will always be an interconnected network of websites. That's what it is. So when it stops being that, it stops being the internet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that will always be the case. 3, content is like the beating heart of SEO, right? People have questions that they want answers to.
The problems will always exist. There will always be human problems that need answers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People will always have, and the searches will proliferate more and more and more as new technologies arise, as new trends come up. People are going to Google how best area rug for downstairs den. And there's going to be a place there, and Google's always going to, and other search engines are always going to have to decide who answers this query about the area rugs for dens in the best way.
Yeah.
And if you're a rug seller, local rug seller in Baltimore, that could be you.
Yep. And those fundamental realities, they frankly have been running we're coming up on 20 years.
Yeah.
And so
it's back to your demand thing. Like people will always have things that they need answers for, need help with.
Yeah.
And there will always be people like you, if you're a business, to help them answer that.
Yeah.
And so those 3 things: website architecture, offsite factors and links, and content will always be here. So as long as those are the key components of SEO is going to be around.
Yeah. Three very stable pillars that have longevity for being relevant for SEO. Next up, new devices are changing voice search. And then eventually, I guess, we'll have neural search.
Just think about it and then
think about it and then scroll through some results. These are fundamentally always going to be new technologies. We're always going to have new combinations of hardware and configuring hardware with the entry of the data. So I did a search yesterday in my car. I have a truck. I was driving. I wanted to know something. I used voice activated search. I was just doing a quick search to get something.
That would have been using Siri, right?
Yeah, I was using Siri and I got a result. And it was okay. The experience wasn't very good. It was kind of rough. You got Apple talking to F-150 and using CarPlay and it did a thing.
And then Siri talking to Wolfram Alpha or something. Right?
And it did a thing. But there's always going to be a lot of work to be done to understand these things. And this expertise, I'm willing to predict, is never going to reside within the organizations that are doing their primary business. I don't think there will ever be an oil change shop or an oil change brand with 1,000 locations that will say, I think we need to develop an in-house expert for understanding something like the minutia of what's happening today with voice search. I think you're always going to have areas of expertise that are needed to be brought in, even if it's on a consulting basis to train somebody or just provide the content.
Right.
So it's an industry that's rich with innovation, not because of necessarily a change in the fundamentals of people and problems and content, but because the mechanisms that are between those two things are constantly changing. We have seen a lot of changes over the last few years in people also ask content being dominant in the search results page on Google.
Yep.
And a lot of that is the influence of voice search. So yeah, new devices are changing voice search. That's just an example of a larger category, but change is a constant. So SEO is not going away. We're always going to be figuring out how to work today to connect people and answers.
Number 4, and we actually hinted at this on the last one, but we'll take number 4 here. Search volume is increasing, so complexity is increasing.
Yeah.
People will always have new questions, like I mentioned in my in topic number 2, in point number 2. But in the future, what are people going to be searching in 10 years? How to avoid accidents in my flying car or something.
Yeah.
Like, right.
Yeah.
So people have been predicting flying cars for years.
Yeah.
That probably
There's
happen,
a model out there working. Yeah.
So the point is, as technology develops, as new trends develop, as new societal patterns develop, there will be there's always a continual need for new content out there. Michael, you have a client that does janitorial services.
Yeah.
There are searches that are happening right now that did not exist 18 months ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
How to
clean COVID out of the air in an office.
That search did not exist, could not exist 18 months ago.
Yeah.
Or however long you do that. I'm doing the math wrong.
Yeah.
But like, the point is,
2 years ago,
as new things develop, new viruses develop, new technologies, all this stuff, there will continue to be a new insatiable need for new content on the web, on the internet, that answers people's questions and solves their problems. So because of that, it's the volume increasing and the complexity is increasing of the search content, the queries. So SEO will always need to be an organizing principle over who answers this question the best, right?
Yeah,
and that's what SEO is.
Yeah, and I think that right now Google, they're doing their best, but really they need publishers, what we might call people with websites, publishers. They need publishers to sort of deliver things in a certain way just to work with Google. So it's not enough to have a website. You also have to understand how it connects, and it's getting more complex, not less complex.
Right.
Yeah. All right. We'll wrap up with this. SEO won't ever die because businesses find it converts better than ads. And I want to back up here a half step. We're pro ads.
Yeah. My company does ads.
Your company does ads. I do ads.
But
we do SEO.
But here's the thing.
I think of it as part of a balanced diet.
Yeah. Imagine if the entire page 1 of Google was 10 ads.
Yeah, Google.
No one would use Google.
Google right now, the pages, in my opinion, are very ad heavy, but those organic results legitimize the path to getting through the ads. So Google, without those organic results, is essentially just the yellow pages. And so what they've done, the reason we had the white pages in front of the yellow pages is it gave you almost a utility sense. This would be 20 years ago. But the phone company kept white pages even though yellow pages were the moneymaker, because the white pages for 100 years were the thing that justified them delivering a stack of paper that was all ads. And so Google has taken the yellow pages model and basically just weaponized it. And so what we see is that organic results take longer to accomplish. SEO takes longer than advertising. It's more low key. There's no big kaboom that happens when you go live with a campaign. It's more like just one toe in the ocean. And ads tend to kind of dominate a lot of the top of the page. So the metaphor that we've come up with that we think is really helpful is it's a combination of hunting and farming. You need both.
That's good.
You need your grains and you need your protein.
Yep.
So advertising is good in the sense that you can go and you can turn that dial, you can drive immediate results. So it moves faster.
Yep.
And you can stop it if you need to. Say if you've got a limited supply of something, or if you've got a limited time frame for something, you can start and stop ads on a dime, really, really within seconds. Organic results, content-based, SEO-based farming is built up more over time, but it's accretive. With the ads, when you turn off the budget, it zeroes out.
Yep.
But with the organic investment, when we establish rankings, like we have a website that ranks for, let's just say 10,000 keywords. Well, a few months ago, it was 9,000 keywords.
Yep.
We didn't suddenly get good enough in month 10 to get 10,000 keywords. Whereas in month 9, we're only good enough to get 9. No. It's that we got 1,000 every month.
Yep.
We're accreting and building because we're building up a base of content in SEO.
You're building an asset. An ad is an asset.
We're building a business asset.
Because you pay for it every time. SEO, you pay for it once. It's like a field.
Yeah.
You can grow crop after crop, season after season on that same field. You still have to tend to the field.
Yep.
But you don't have to go out and buy another field. So it really is hunting versus farming. I like that.
Yeah. I think that analogy, Chris, thank you for that analogy. I think that is the perfect summation. But the real deep roots of why search engines are not ever going to totally turn their back on those sort of non-ad listings is because they do, in a sense, legitimize the entire endeavor.
And they know people will migrate to DuckDuckGo or to Bing, or so it's the market at play. They could make 10 ads.
Absolutely.
They could make 10 ads on the first page, but their market share would go.
Yeah. And we can talk about it like, well, you don't know what Google's going to do. They make a lot of changes. No. What I'm really saying is this is a business model that's been around for literally 100 years. Literally 100 years.
Yeah.
That any city that had phones, going back to when phones were brand new.
Yeah.
Anytime they were creating a directory, they were trying to get somebody to sponsor and pay for the printing.
Yep.
And so that became the sponsor. But they always had to have those free listings to legitimize the entire batch.
Yep.
So, all right, I'll wrap us up and close this out. This has been episode 60 of Dodgeball Marketing Podcast, Why SEO Won't Die. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn for access to new episodes, marketing resources, and more. This is Chris. I'm Michael. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.